Hey everyone, welcome. You know that feeling when you give some feedback and it lands perfectly with one colleague, but then completely bombs with another? It's baffling, right? Well, today we're going to decode those invisible rules of office politics from all around the globe. Think of it like we're creating a cultural map for the workplace. Ready? Let's dive in.
Seriously, have you ever said something you thought was crystal clear, only to get a blank stare from a colleague from another country? Or what about getting feedback from a manager that's so vague you have no idea what to do with it? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. In today's global workplace, getting lost in translation is honestly way more common than you'd think. All right, so our first stop on this little cultural tour is a really fascinating one. We're talking about two countries that are, famously separated by a common language. We're going to explore the super different ways people communicate in the US versus the UK. Okay, so this really lays out the difference, doesn't it? In the US, it's often all about speed and getting straight to the point. Individualism is a big driver, so problems get tackled head on. It's super efficient for sure, but it can also ruffle some feathers. Now, hop across the pond to the UK, and it's a whole different ballgame. The approach is way more indirect, way more polite. The main goal? Keep the team happy, and for goodness sake, don't embarrass anyone in public. It creates a much calmer vibe, but yeah, it can sometimes mean that solving problems takes a little bit longer. It's like two totally different roads leading to the same destination. All right, let's shift gears a bit. We're moving on to our next stop. And this one takes us to cultures where the spotlight isn't really on the individual at all. It's all about the group. And when that's the case, the values of harmony and hierarchy completely, and I mean completely, change the rules of the game. So if you look at many East Asian cultures, think Japan or Korea, group harmony is just everything. It's the most important thing. This kind of collectivist mindset means you are almost never going to see someone openly criticize a coworker or challenge their boss in a meeting. But, and this is key, that doesn't mean disagreements just disappear. Oh no, they just go underground, behind the scenes. So building influence isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, it's done quietly, through things like seniority and building alliances. And what's really interesting here is that not all hierarchical cultures are the same, not by a long shot. On the one hand, you've got East Asia, where that focus on group harmony means office politics are usually pretty subtle and indirect. But then you look at parts of the Middle East and South Asia, and the hierarchy is often much more out in the open. Decisions come straight from the top, and politics can be all about directly getting on the boss's good side. Okay, our world tour of office politics isn't over yet. Next up, we've got two more models that are just poles apart. In one, it's all about who you know. Your network is everything. And in the other, it's the total opposite. The goal is for every single voice to be heard. Think about places like Brazil or Mexico. Down there, business doesn't kick off with a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint. Nope. It starts with a coffee, a meal, a real conversation. You have to build that personal relationship first. Trust is basically the currency here. So office politics isn't about having a big, direct confrontation. It's way more about navigating these really complex webs of friendship and loyalty. Power flows through who you're connected to. Now, let's flip that idea completely on its head and look at Northern Europe. In countries like Sweden or the Netherlands, the whole culture is built on a foundation of equality. The structure is much flatter, power is spread out more evenly. And get this, it's not just okay, it's literally expected that every employee will share their opinions directly with their managers. Now, the downside is that making the decision can take a while because everyone's chiming in. But the upside is that when conflicts do happen, they're usually handled with a whole lot of calm, rational logic. So, okay, we've looked at all these very different, very distinct cultural styles. But what happens when you throw them all together on the same international team? Well, that's when the sparks can really fly. This is exactly where perfectly good intentions can lead to some major misunderstandings. I mean, just look at how easily things can go wrong, even when everyone means well. Take an American manager giving direct feedback. They think they're being helpful and efficient, right? But to their British or Japanese colleague, it can come across as incredibly rude. Or what about a Japanese employee who's being quiet in a meeting to show respect? To an American boss, they might just look disengaged. And that Brazilian colleague who's taking time to build relationships? To a super task-oriented German coworker, they might just seem unfocused. See, it is all about perspective. Okay, so with all these potential landmines, the big question is, how on earth do you navigate this crazy, complex map? Well, it really boils down to one crucial thing. You've got to develop your own internal cultural compass.
And here's the secret. The key isn't to become an expert and memorize a giant rule book for every single country. That's impossible. The real key is simply being aware that these differences exist. Seriously, just knowing this stuff isn't some fun fact for a trivia night. It's a vital professional skill. It's what allows you to communicate more clearly, to handle problems without drama, and to build genuine, lasting trust with your colleagues, no matter where in the world they come from.
So I want to leave you with this to think about. What are the real, unwritten rules where you work? Take a second and think about it. How is power really handled? How do people actually communicate? How do you deal with conflict? And more importantly, how could understanding those hidden rules totally change the way you show up to work every day? Something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me on this tour.